In other news, over in Germany, they've announced plans to impose tougher controls at all of their land borders in a mass crackdown on what they're calling irregular migration.
Well, the new regulations are due to start next Monday, and they're in place for an initial 6 months. After that time, they're reviewed.
Yes, and in recent times, the Islamic State group did claim responsibility for a knife attack in the western city of Solingen that killed 3 people just last month.
Well, delighted to be joined now by the UK correspondent for Die Welt, Jochen Bittner. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. A lot of people will be thinking, goodness me, border controls inside the EU free movement Schengen zone. I mean, how does that work?
Well, yeah, it is, as you said, a crackdown. So the German government are trying to get tough on immigration. But the problem, of course, if you start these border controls, if you start rejecting people to other countries, how will they react? I mean, Austria is the country that will be most affected by Germany rejecting migrants over to the border because, you know, it is located on the route from the Balkans to Germany. And Austria has already said that it isn't happy with this decision. Austria has elections coming up next month, and the right-wing populist party are leading in the polls. So I've no idea actually how this will play out in practice. But what the German government is trying to do, at least, is to try to react in some way to, as you mentioned, the murders and stabbing that we have seen over the summer in Germany. It has been, if you will, a summer of discontent. Solingen, the murders that you mentioned, they were only part of a series of stabbings and murders committed partly by ISIS members. So the German government very much feels that it needs to do something now, or at least signal that it's trying to do something.
Yes, there's a huge amount of anger over in Germany. Of course there is, as a result of this series of terror attacks or suspected terror attacks. If the EU isn't protecting the external border, then might we actually see other countries like Austria adopt the same measures as Germany, and all of the countries try and strengthen their national borders?
Yeah, look, this could be part of the calculation, actually. You know, you have to know that the German opposition, the Conservative Party, they have been pushing the left-center government in Germany to adopt some changes. And what they actually hope for is a kind of domino effect. So if Germany starts rejecting migrants, Austria should start rejecting migrants. Next county up in the line could be Italy starting to reject migrants. But the big hope is that you have to do it only for a limited time, and then news will spread that it isn't so easy any longer to enter Europe.
But of course, yeah. Olaf Scholz was saying not that long ago that this would be illegal under Schengen rules, under the EU's rule book. You can't impose barriers between different countries. It's all one free movement zone. He appears to have really pretty drastically changed his mind, performed a pretty spectacular U-turn on that. But also there's the issue that he might run up against what the EU Commission have to say about this.
Yeah, that's one big question. Concerning the legal question as to whether this is legal or not, I mean, if you ask 2 lawyers, you will get 3 opinions on this. But take the broader picture. The entire idea of the Schengen area was that if you manage to control the outer European border, that is actually the precondition for opening up borders within Europe. Now, the protection of the outer borders has not been working for some time, and thus there is no real justification to keep the borders open within Europe. And this problem needs to be fixed. You can only have open borders in Europe if the European borders themselves are being protected. And this is what the government in Germany hopes for over the course of the next 6 months, you know, that European border police, Frontex, will be strengthened, that we will see a regime change in a way there. This is all very hopeful, I would say. I think we might even be in for some broader changes here.
Yeah, it's almost as if the establishment or the politicians in charge just hoped for the best when it came to border control, that there wouldn't be these massive issues. I remember when Angela Merkel, back in 2010 it was, talked about how Multikulti ist tot, if that's the correct in Germany. And then, of course, you had huge amounts of migration and there was a sort of closed-eye attitude to any of the potential issues that might come about after that. Now, Keir Starmer was with Olaf Scholz. I want to get your view on this. He was talking about how progressives in Europe need to unite, including Olaf Scholz, in terms of attacking the far right and pushing them out of any type of power. I mean, would Keir Starmer consider what the Germans are now doing when it comes to tightening border controls as far right?
You would have to ask this question Keir Starmer directly, but what I can tell you is I think that in order to fight right-wing populists, you have to tackle real-life problems. And I think what we've seen over the summer has been the straw that broke the camel's back, in a way, because the German public just won't have it any longer. They won't tolerate statements that say it is just not possible to control the borders. And, you know, looking back even further, I think what you need to understand about the German situation is that 30 years ago, actually, there was a change to the German constitution that many Germans actually have forgotten about as well. And this change said that if you enter Germany from a neighboring country, from a European country, you are not entitled to claim asylum because obviously you came from a safe third country. Now, this provision was the result of a huge debate, a heated debate, including all major parties 30 years ago. And what has happened in 2015 was that this consensus was washed away by a crisis, by millions of refugees, in particular from Syria, flooding into Germany. Now, so we have a situation still, we have had it for almost 10 years now, where this basic provision of the German constitution wasn't upheld, and we have to find a big new solution to this problem. Of course, Germany always said, look, we don't want to push refugees away. We have to distribute them within Europe, and that was the Dublin system. Now, this Dublin system broke down as well. So we have a completely dysfunctional legal system at the moment, and this needs a big reform, I believe.
It's absolutely fascinating, and a lot of the issues are, you know, similar to what we're experiencing here, of course. Thank you very much indeed, Jochen Bittner, UK correspondent for Die Zeit. Thank you very much for your time.